All right. Thank you for being here. Maanarak of Grey, writer, artist, content creator. I know there's a lot of other things we could say, but I'd like to keep it in three general things just for brevity's sake. But then maybe
Right.
explaining it takes away the brevity. Anyway, how do you schedule or separate your time across your YouTube channels?
Very difficultly. Right now, badly, I have to say. I have to be honest. And why badly? Because aside from the YouTube channels that I would like to focus on, I have other things to do as well. Like I have clients, I have other projects going. Um, so yeah, it hit me in the face because I started with a new season of the Poison Honey podcast, and I thought, well, I'm also gonna grow my own, kind of behind the scenes YouTube channel, and I haven't been able to be consistent. Yeah, to answer your question honestly, so I'm still looking for a way to really schedule that. And what I'm looking for now is how can I have some kind of income stability, whereas that I'm not so dependent on projects outside of what I want to do. And I think once I have that set up and I'm putting in less time in client projects, that I can get some kind of consistency going with my own YouTube channels.
Do you have a podcast that you're currently doing with a regularity?
Um, no, my intention was to do as I said, the Poison Eye podcast
Mhm.
is streaming or launching season 3 now, and I did start with some regularity. I have like the first 3 weeks were regular, and then I had to start this campaign for a client, and both. I'm coordinator. I have an intern that I have to, uh, yeah, guide, and I'm also the video editor, which has made it challenging. But I want to have it completely released, though, let's say before September. So that would be some kind of regularity in uh, more in the month that I want it to be released. At the moment, not much in weeks. Like I haven't been consistent in the weeks. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Was the plan to do it a show every week or monthly,
Mhm.
or how'd you first envision it?
Yeah, my first envision was bi-weekly, and then I thought, um, let me just do weekly. But I think bi-weekly would have maybe been given me a little bit more breather in between, right? To edit the next episode and have it
So by
uploaded.
bi-weekly, do you mean twice a week or every 2 weeks?
Oh, every other week, yeah. So every
Okay.
2 weeks, yeah.
And when you started doing that, what was your vision for the show? Like, were you doing an interview show? Were you doing it as just you? Were you covering topics? How long were you looking
Yeah.
for each episode to be?
Yeah, so each episode is about 40 minutes to an hour. It kind of depends on how the conversation goes with my guest. And this particular um, podcast is about sharing life stories and really learning from each other, how we grow through that, and kind of really having a moment of being vulnerable and sharing your personal story. If I can give a bit of examples of the topics that we have on there, we've had toxic relationship. We've talked about childhood trauma. We have episodes about domestic violence survivors. And a really interesting one that I have on this season is men or one man learning to become more emotionally intelligent, and now he's teaching other men that as well. So that's kind of like the range of um, topics that we tackle on that podcast.
Are you doing it all yourself? Like you do the scheduling and everything yourself?
Yeah, finding the guest, scheduling, recording, editing, and putting it online. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why also I'm getting a bit stuck. But I find that if I'm gonna have someone to help me, I should be able to pay them as well. I'm not there either.
What kind of technical equipment do you use for recording it and then publishing it?
So recording in the past, I've tried different things. For this season, I've used mostly Zoom for the recording. I had used, I can't find the name now. It was, I think, Streamlab is what it became, um, which is, I think, similar to what you have here.
Mhm.
And I use Adobe for the editing, so Premiere Pro.
Oh, wow. So you record it and then you put it into something else. And do you separate the sound and the video, or how much editing do you do?
I in the beginning I did really separate the sound and the video, and I really took the time to edit out ums or awkward pauses, and with
Mhm.
time I stopped doing that because obviously that's way too
Yeah.
much work. The only thing I really edit out now is if midway we stopped and to kind of like realigned, or like my office is a building next to my house, so my parents might walk in unexpectedly. Like that's the kind of thing that I would edit out. And for the rest, I think Premiere Pro has gotten pretty good at the audio editing itself, so I don't really have to, let's say, move it out to Audition, unless it's very bad sound quality, which usually doesn't happen. I can just use like presets in Premiere Pro to edit that.
Yeah. I found talking to different people that do podcasts that there are the people that really like the technical side of it, that pull the audio and video apart and compress things, take things out, and then add it back together. And that's cool if you like doing it, or if you have a
Mhm.
staff that does it. But it's difficult from my perspective or my experience to do all of that yourself. That you spend 40 minutes recording it maybe, but then you have hours more of editing, and you create so much more work that
Yeah,
you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to do this. And one of my biggest worries when I started was consistency. Like, make a, can I get a guest and have a show every week? Can I do multiple ones a week? How many should I do? And I started out doing a lot, like 3 or 4 a week, and then releasing them all on Wednesdays. And then I was like, I wonder if that's fair to each person, where they're getting released in like 2 or 3 at a time. Then maybe only the last one that's uploaded is getting into the algorithm a certain way. And
yeah,
then I think you can get lost in looking up how to get views or impressions on social media. And then I just was like, well, it seems like it's made to be an unknown thing, whether it's by the people that designed it or just the way the system works. So I
Mhm.
gave up on that kind of. And then I went with, what can I do? What's the amount of work I can do and still live my life normally, to where this is something I look forward to doing and have time to do, versus
Yeah,
it's a stressor that is just more stress I'm putting on myself because I'm doing all this technical stuff with it.
yeah,
But that's why I do StreamYard is what I use. And I looked at Zoom and some other ones. And I think you just got to find the one that has the things you like on it, the features you like and that you want to use, and is the easiest for
yeah.
you, and then learn that one. Like if you never used Adobe to do editing before, it's a learning curve to learn all of that. So find one and then stick with it until you get sick of it and you're like, I wish it had these other things. See if you can
Yeah.
get them to change it, and if not, find one that's different. But with
Yeah.
StreamYard, for me, you don't have to download anything for the guest to call in. You just send them a link and then
Hmm.
they're in. Zoom wasn't like that. You have to download Zoom and have that. So I was looking for the least resistance for the guest. And then one of the big worries was, am I going to have a guest every week? And what do I do if I get a cancellation or what? How do you find guests and schedule your guests?
Well, for what I did for this podcast, I used a matchmaker. .fm. That's where I found most guests. And what I do is, or what I decided to do with this, is to do one season per year. And then what I do is, when I'm preparing for that season, I open up my profile on Matchmaker. And I don't know if you get that, but people start contacting you, and then I'm like filtering who I want or not. And then I kind of make a list of, okay, this is what I have. Is there something that I would personally want on the show myself still? And then I go looking for that, and I message those people and I try to get them on the show. And then once I have, now I did it with, I think, around 7 or 8. Um, I don't want to say people because I had some couples as well. So let's say episodes.
Shows. Mhm.
I made my profile of that podcast unavailable again. Um, and then I recorded those people. So now I have those recording, and I'm in the point where I just have to edit and get it online. Um, so that's the structure I chose for that one. And I have a second podcast that is more on, so to give you a bit of context. So my work is essentially how can I do holistic development work. And what I mean by that is I studied international development management. Um, but I also have this passion for art, and I always wanted to be an artist. So I started exploring how do I combine these two worlds, and I found that in, okay, I can do this in looking at it more holistically. That means that I'm not only looking at the outer world to develop that, which is mostly what I study, like the environmentalism, the sustainability, and these things, but there's also an element in our own person, our personal growth, and our personal experiences that influence that outer world. So that is why I have this one podcast that's more about our personal journeys and our personal behavior and that kind of thing. And I have another podcast that's more really focused on, okay, what's going on in the outer world, and what can we do. So there's obviously some overlap because it's still people doing things, right? But there one is more like individual, and the other one's more kind of communal, kind of global community. And the one for, let's say, the outer world, which is creation, I think it might even be more irregular than poison honey, because with poison honey I at least decided, okay, I'm gonna do a season once a year, and this is how I'm gonna go about it. But for creation, I'm still kind of finding and fine tuning. It's also the newer podcast in that sense, and it's also a podcast that's going to be linked to what I was saying earlier. How do I get kind of like a consistent stream of income, because I'm going to do courses, and the courses are going to be related to how can people facilitate change. So that's why I when I find someone interesting that I want to interview for that, I do it and I put it online. um, but it's kind of in development because the course is also in development. I think then once I have that more development, okay, this is what the course is going to be, I can also be more strategic about it. Okay, then I need to interview these people, and I need to definitely have these kind of topics on to then kind of connect to yeah, to the course, and what we're gonna do training wise for that one. So I'm kind of like, I want to keep it active somehow. So I just do interesting episodes, and I get them out. But I don't have a more like really strategic thing going like I have for the Poison Eye podcast.
Yeah, I see a bunch of podcasters that have multiple podcasts that they do. The one I think of, like Adam Carolla, has his normal Adam Carolla podcast, has his one with Dr. Drew, has another one that I think is in like a hiatus now that is like home improvement stuff. I think he has a couple other ones too. And I wonder how you schedule that, is just as far as your own schedule, because you're like, okay, I recorded this podcast and now I need to do this podcast and I need to do this one.
Mhm.
And it seems like with his, as an example, the topic that he talks about on his, he also talks about on the other one with Dr. Drew. And then you're like, this seems, if I'm listening to all of these, I'm getting the same stuff over and over. But
Yeah,
it's with a channel, I think with podcasting, especially when you're doing everything yourself,
yeah,
that simple is the key. Make it as simple as possible so you can do it alone. Get especially with all the technical stuff that's out there now, get the program that helps you record it and then publish it easiest, so you can have the
yeah,
control of it. And then maybe don't get lost in the social media side of it, the X and Instagram and all that. I understand, because I have that for this podcast. You're wanting to get the word out there, and how do you get the word out there? But I'm not sure how much engagement or real life people you contact on those platforms. So
yeah,
I'm thinking about not using those anymore, just because I spend so much time on them and I'm not sure what it does. It feels like you're just yelling out into the world. But with yours
hmm,
of having the outer and the inner world, I like that. And I think if I'm following you, instead of going, I want to follow this channel, this channel, this channel, and this channel, then I go, I'm listening to this podcast that's the outer and inner world. And I'm looking through your stuff, I see you're into the yin and yang. And maybe the logo, then I like the logo you have now with the crescents and things. And the
yeah,
video editing you do on the front side of your podcast, I can see why it takes longer, especially when you're pulling out clips and putting them in front. That it, like, I thought about doing that and I was like, man, that'd be okay if I had a staff of people working on it,
yeah,
especially for scheduling and doing the social media sides. But doing that all yourself, you go, man, I'm never going to get it done, because it just backs up and backs up. But if you had
yeah,
one channel that was like the inner and outer, and you did it kind of like a yin and yang, and then if you were doing a podcast about the outer world, the Crescent,
creation. Yeah,
okay, if you're doing that, then the logo is facing a certain way, like that's on top. And then if you're
mm,
doing your poison honey inner world stuff, that then the logo is flipped the other way, you put it all on one channel. It's an easy
yeah,
graphic to make one side and the other. And then everybody that looks at your channel knows what the topic is on, like it's the inner or the
mm,
outer world. Plus it gives you a little variety just for yourself and for
yeah,
the listener. Go, oh, I like the inner ones, I'm going to listen to those. They can choose to listen to the others too. And it seems like it would be easier to deal with on the production level. And then you just say, I'm going to do one a month, and I'm going to
yeah,
alternate between the inner and outer world. And maybe it's even to the point where you could do one a week. The thing I think is, you do the consistency, you find something, you set that goal for yourself, and then try to meet it, which is
yeah,
difficult, because it does seem like when you're doing it all yourself, every now and then with podcasting, I get to the point where I go, what am I doing?
yeah.
Maybe you understand that feeling. and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think is, all right, how many people are watching this? What's it doing? And then it comes back to
Yeah.
what you're doing is what you're interested in. So I think that's why instead of covering a specific topic, it's about doing something that you would do even if you didn't publish it. So
Yeah.
when I started doing podcasting, it was because I liked talking to creative people at like writing groups. And then I was like, well, I want to talk to artists too, not just writers, and not just writers for the specific one. And I don't want to go through all these different groups to talk to them. And then when the
Yeah.
lockdown happened and the writing group got moved online or canceled, then I was like, well, what can I do to get that same interaction with people? And then it was,
Hmm.
well, do a podcast where you're talking with people, talking with strange people, because that's fun. And then you can talk about different types of art or different types of writing, as long as you have a topic that is broad enough that you can cover the things you want to cover, but narrow enough that people can look at it and go, okay, I understand. Like with yours, for example, the inner and outer world. I really like that setup to where you can go, oh, okay, this is what we're listening to today is an outer
Yeah.
world, and this is we're listening to an inner world. So I think that's the whole idea of scaling the podcast. How long are your seasons? What do you mean when you say a season of podcasting?
A season is, let's say, a certain amount of episodes, usually around
Okay.
8 episodes. And yeah, I call it a season because of the way that I record them, like batch record them, and uh, ideally also batch edit them and send them
Yeah.
out, and have everything um, yeah, scheduled. So that was my idea, to just like sit and edit everything. I just kind of I did not calculate accurately how much time the other project was gonna take from me,
Mm.
and how much work it is to really guide an intern. Um, this is like my first intern that I have, and she's here specifically for that other project with the client. So yeah, I really I did not make a good calculation on that
Mm.
on how much
Yeah.
work and how much people are going to be interrupting me. Because the thing is, like, if I can sit uninterrupted and just edit everything, that's fine. But if every time someone's interrupting me and someone has a question that I have to take action, for example, just before we went into this recording, someone sends me a message from, oh, the file you sent, I didn't get that file, can you send it through transfer? These are things that completely would, then if I was editing, would take me out of my editing
Mm.
zone. And now I have to go think, okay, which documents, where do I find that? I go into we transfer, maybe I don't, it's too big, like, there's, so you go into a whole different subset of actions that by the time I finish with that, I'm exhausted and now I gotta take a break. And then, so that's been kind of confronting, and I've been really hitting a wall in that sense. I think
Mm.
there's the term they say, you have to pay a tax each time you switch from one task to the other, and I've been having to pay a lot of tax on switching between things. And yeah, that's gotten delayed, but I like your idea of I wish I would have spoken to you before I took poison honey from my YouTube, because poison honey was on my YouTube channel before, and then I thought, well, no, let me give each one their own space,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But this is a much better idea.
I've gone through that same thing with YouTube channels too, where you're like, well, let me do
Yeah.
a channel for clips, a channel for full shows. And then I did for a
Yeah.
while a channel with is like a video game editing channel where you have gameplay and then you put music over it, you speed it up, slow it
Mhm.
down, and do explanations of the game. I don't do that anymore, but that was a great, it was worth more than a college class in video editing to me. I use CapCut for it and learn so much about it. And that's the same thing with podcasting, is all that stuff of, you've never done a podcast before, and then you think, I'm going to do a podcast. Now you have to educate yourself on it. And then you could take a class. You could watch YouTube videos about it. There's plenty of them forever and never do anything. Then you just have to go, okay, what am I comfortable doing, and how can I most easily get it done now, with the idea that if I need to scale it up, I can scale it up later. Like, what are my, in the military, you call it your limits, your lateral limits, for a field of fire. You don't go past here and don't go past here. So you have to set that up for yourself. And maybe for you, I would think, put it all on one channel. Make it, if you want to do seasons, that's fine. If whatever format that works best for you, and then don't do the editing. That's, it's a strange part for people that are like, well, I want to put out a certain product. I don't want to have all these other things in there. But then you just go, well, look, the first podcasts are going to be a learning experience. So in public speaking and how to technically put everything together, you're going to be learning that through the beginning, and really always. And if you go back and look at any of your podcasts, that's when you go, oh, I need to stop doing that. And that's how you get better. It is not through the editing process, but through let me take a look back at this and go, okay, like Joe Rogan's podcast. You go back and look at the first ones, if they're still on there. And like when I first started listening to his, like probably when he was in the high triple digits, I started listening to it. I think he's in the 2000s now. That I went back, I was like, oh, this is good. Let me look at how he first started off. And I looked at a few of those and I was like, ooh, I can't watch this. So just understand that that's how it is, but that's the journey. And if anybody wants to look at it, like I could look at it now, that's before I was podcasting. I could probably look at it now and get more out of it, because I'm going, what are they doing? How's he recording it? How's he publishing it? How's he getting guests? What's he setting up? And I'd get more out of it. But I think now for you, if the editing is the issue, don't do the editing. Just find a program that puts it out there. Like StreamYard, I don't know all the other ones. I know StreamYard, but they put in like a AI clip generator now, which is that's helpful, because I used to spend a lot of time going through and marking the episodes with the time of, that's going to be a good clip. Let me put that in there. And then that pulls you out of the conversation. But now they have the AI thing that does it. And I think when you do an AI generated clip and put it on social media, that the AI of the social media recognizes the AI of the clip, and you get more engagement and more into the algorithm than you would off of something that you think is good. So I was like, okay, I'm going to outsource that to the AI that's in the program that just does it with a push of the button. And then I can go back and look at it and say, this one, not this one, this one, not this one. Like I'm not doing 5-minute clips. I'm doing less than a minute clips, and usually around 30 seconds if possible. But just find a way that all the stuff you dread about it. And I'm not talking about dread like death dread. I'm just talking about the thing that keeps you from doing it. You're like, I don't want to record one because then I have to edit it. Then just go, well, maybe I don't edit it. Maybe I just put it out there. And if mom walks through the background while I'm doing it, then I could push pause maybe, but it's going to jump a little in the final recording. That's okay. Or I just leave it in there, because that's life. Like part of I think your YouTube channel, you had one that was behind the scenes. Just put all those together. So the behind the scenes is in the podcast. So if you want to see the behind the scenes, watch the podcast. If you want to see the outer world, the inner world, watch the same channel. It's all on the same stuff.
That makes sense. And I like your, sorry to interrupt you. I like your setup that you're like, you have the intro and everything already. It's already being recorded. So you basically have a finished product that you can upload if you want it by the end of this.
Yeah, like right after we're done, it downloads. And now I used to have high-speed internet, like a cable internet, and now I have the fiber optic one, which is,
Mm.
I didn't think it was going to be much faster. It's ridiculously faster. Like before an hour long podcast, audio and video, it would take maybe 30 to 40 minutes to download after it was done, and now it's done in 30 seconds. So it's one
Mm.
of those where you, if you have the technology available, get the easiest technology to deal with, the one that takes up the less time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it costs money. Like StreamYard cost a yearly subscription. I'm not sure how much it is. I think it's less than $500. I'm not, it's, and that's a hurdle. Like if you're
Hmm.
doing it, I think they have a free version of it, which I started using. And then the pay version had a little bit extra storage and a little other like features that I liked, but just make it as simple as possible. So then if you were saying I'm doing a 40-minute podcast, but that takes too much time, then do a 30-minute or do a 20-minute. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you can't go longer if you get into a good conversation. The conversation you get into somebody in an hour-long podcast is much different than the third hour of it. So I think that's what keeps those long form conversations even more interesting, is that you have that the deeper conversation. So,
Yeah.
and but then you could also do one that's just you talking about a certain topic, like a short story version of a podcast where you're like, I'm just going to talk about my creative process for poetry because I had a guest that canceled or something. And now I'm just going, instead of stressing getting another guest on a short notice,
Yeah.
then I'm going to just talk about what I do for poetry in 10 minutes, put it out there. And then there we go. We move along. I think
Yeah.
that's the more you edit, maybe it's chasing some sort of perfection that you may or may not get to, but the more you edit, I think the more real world you take out of it. So
Mm.
people that are interested in podcasts for the idea of conversation, you're changing the conversation because you don't get to edit your conversation in real life. You don't
Yeah.
get to come back later and go, I wish I'd have said that. Now I can put that in. So
No, I think we
it's,
do have that sometimes where you're like thinking about the conversations afterwards and you're like having discussions in your head. You do wish you
yeah,
can edit
that's how
in
you
those
get that's
moments.
how you get better. That's the editing, is next time
Yeah.
you go, oh, I'm going to do this next time instead of that. So
Yeah.
podcasting is interesting, and I haven't been doing it that long, but it is, you have to find, I mean, some people say motivation isn't a thing, that discipline is the only thing. But let's put it in the words of motivation. You have to find something that's going to keep you coming back to doing it, that
Hmm.
it it's a chore sometimes, but it's a chore that you want to do. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key with podcasting. What's your success rate on people that you ask to be on and that actually are on?
Um, I think if I can, yeah, I have the last season's planning in my head. And there was one person that canceled from, I think then we had about 9 episodes planned. One person canceled and didn't get back to me. So I think they've been pretty good in showing up.
It's my success rate on matchmaker.fm is a little less than 50% out of the
Hmm.
people that I contact and say, hey, I have this
I,
podcast. I'd like to talk to you about this, this, and this, which I find it
mm,
is strange because on matchmaker.fm, you're dealing with people that have podcasts and people that are going to be on podcasts. Like it's not just strangers that you're stopping. It's
yeah,
people that
yeah,
are like, hey, here's a profile. This is what I like to talk about. Let's talk about it. So
yeah.
that's strange to me, but that's just human nature, maybe.
Maybe that's that because I barely contact them. They contact me,
Hmm.
and I kind of check the profile. If I have a little bit of time, I'll see what other content they have and watch that, and then I decide if that's someone I want to talk to or not. And I just tell them thank you for reaching out. I'm busy doing season whatever, and here's a link to book, and then they yeah, they book, and
Hmm.
I get back to them. um,
Yeah,
so
you do go
yeah.
through the cycles of people contacting you. And usually I haven't turned down that many people. Like I try to schedule them, and I schedule out a ways sometimes. Like
Mm.
sometimes it's 3 or 4 months out, but
Mhm.
I usually try to do recordings like on Monday and Tuesday, and maybe 1 or 2 recordings each day, but only for like half of the month, like 2 Monday,
Mm.
Tuesdays a month, or 3 sometimes if things are getting weird and I want to have a gap covered. But I try to do
Yeah.
one show a week released on Wednesdays. And at, at the beginning, I found out organization was the thing because you need to keep track of the people you've asked and
Yeah.
what they've said, so you don't go back to them again. And like I give them, like I do 2 or 3 contacts with them, and then that's it. I just put them on the spreadsheet. It's highlighted in red for they didn't respond, or they didn't respond to
Mm.
the email. I don't use a scheduling app because I figure if we're going to have a conversation and we can't work out how to have that conversation, then we probably won't be able to have a conversation. So I
Mhm.
don't leave that up to a computer to do. Maybe if I had a staff and Spotify was like, we're going to give you $50 million to do this podcast, I'd go, okay,
Yeah.
well, let's get one other person at least here to do this stuff. Then
Yeah.
you have that human contact. But it's the scheduling was the biggest stress for me. Matchmaker.fm helped a lot. And there's other ones out there too that you can go through and find different people. Like with you, I found you on matchmaker.fm and then contacted you first. And
Yeah.
then I'd say probably 50% maybe of my shows are people that contacted me, and 50% are people that I contact because I see their profile and I go, poet, writer.
Mhm.
Yes, that's what I like to talk about. Poets and police, my favorite types of people. So I could always talk with them, even if we don't talk about anything else. And then you
Yeah.
had your podcasting stuff on there, and I like talking about that and seeing what other people do. That's interesting. I think and it's also something that I was interested in watching or listening to before I started. So I was like, okay,
Mm.
this,
Yeah.
instead of worrying about what's the trend, what are people going to talk about, I just go, what would I look at?
Yeah.
What's going to be interesting to me? And sometimes there are people that contact me that I wouldn't have contacted, but I go, okay, let's see if we can have a conversation about it. And
Yeah.
I haven't had many bad conversations, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm also amazed at the quality of conversations that I end up having. I do have a few that I would be like, interesting. I wouldn't like if I was contacting people. I'm not sure if I would have contacted you, but I often just give them the opportunity and end up having interesting conversations. Um,
I think
yeah,
one of the
but I
things I
don't.
found was when people I've had a few scheduled through like Instagram and X, but mostly matchmaker.fm or people I know or people who I know. And
Mhm.
on the matchmaker.fm, when you send that first message of contacting somebody, I used to have one that was a few paragraphs long, and that's, I think,
Yeah,
too much. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
sometimes you'll get people that give you they just send you, they probably send it out to hundreds of shows. And
yeah,
it's just like, hey, here's my profile. And you go, whoa, this is too much to look at. So then,
yeah,
like when I sent that first contact to you, it was just as a sentence or two. That's
yeah,
like, I have the show that's about this. I'd like to talk to you about these things. Let me know. And I think that's a better way to contact people that are strangers, because who's going to
yeah.
read that? Who's going to scroll through all that stuff and go, oh geez. If I'm interested, I'll go look at the profile. So
Exactly.
that's
That's
one of the
what
things
I
that
was gonna
changed since I
say.
started.
Yeah, yeah. Some people just send way too much, and I just skim, and I end up going to the profile anyway because I find in the chat it's not as like good overview as on the
Mm-hmm.
profile. So I do think that's a better method. Just sending. That's also what I do once I do decide to contact people. It's just short, like yeah. It's not. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be that long.
So that's podcasting.
Hmm.
How about the writing side of things?
Yeah.
What is your experience with poetry? Like, what would you call? Let's maybe that's too broad a question. What kind of poetry do you prefer to write?
I think, and it may be a bit cliche, but the best poems that come out of me, it's like when I'm hurt in some capacity, be it heartbreak or like I'm angry at a situation. Yeah, that is angry poetry, I think. No, but um, yeah, like that, and yeah, wouldn't know what kind of genre. I can give an example. For my first book, A Tale of Her, um, I was going through a breakup, and I was writing a lot just to kind of, I guess it's a way of processing what's going on internally. And then I just looked at them and I thought, well, these are pretty good poems, and that's where I decided to make the book out of it. The last poem I wrote, I was for this very project that I was saying that it's been keeping me so busy. I was pretty angry at like how the process was going and certain kind of colonial relationships, um, because you have the initiators are from the Netherlands, and I'm on an island called Bonaire, which is technically still a colony of the Netherlands. And um, you have a project, and you have, this dynamic of, okay, they say we're doing it for you people there, but at the same time they want to have a certain amount of control over it. So I got really angry, and I wrote a poem about that. So that's usually like some kind of intense emotion. It triggers me to write poetry. I have considered and at times try to really just, sit down, as they say, like just write a poem a day or something like that. That doesn't always work for me. I really, need to feel like that this kind of um, something wants to be birthed out of whatever I'm feeling. So that's, I guess, the kind of poet I am. That's it.
Where do you think that ideas come from?
Hmm.
Like, for example, is it something that we manifest through our own experience and understanding, or is it something that comes from outside of us through, like, we're downloading it, or an antenna or a conduit for it? Or is it both? Is it a mix of both? Is it one or the other sometimes? What do you think?
I am more inclined to say that it's a mix of both. Though the more I've, with time, learned about ideas, and especially the kind of phenomenon of people having the same idea at the same time, and one person acts on it and the other one doesn't, and then in a couple of years they see that person carrying out that idea. I do think there's a big element of, I said, downloading it, that there's um, yeah, the idea presents itself to multiple people, and it depends on that person whether they act upon it or not. So I do think definitely there's that element of ideas. But
Do you,
I
how do you
think,
keep?
mhm.
Do you get like moments in the day, if you're not sitting down to say I'm going to write, but that the an idea presents itself, and you talked about already that you have to do something with it. I think
Mhm.
that's the difference between a writer and not a writer. Is a writer writes it down. So that's the
Yeah.
first step. Well, maybe the first step is hearing it or understanding it and then recognizing it and then writing it down, whatever. But does that happen to you throughout the day where you're like, you get an idea or a line or something and you have to write it down, and then either it all comes out at that one point, or you put that line down and then later it's another line, maybe they're the same poem, maybe they're different poems, and then it just constructs itself over time? What's your experience with it?
Yeah, it can happen that it comes out all at once, and it will be kind of like a draft version of it that I would later look at and kind of refine in terms of like uh, the structure, how it flows. Because I am very uh, kind of particular in how the things flow. It needs to kind of have this rhythm, and I cannot explain to you how to get to that rhythm because it's just something that I feel as I'm reading it. Um, I've also had just one sentence or just a couple of words, and I write that down. I used to keep a much better track of it, I should say, and I had like my little note um, pad or thing on my phone. Now I would write it down. Like I have a lot of paper. I have like these little things lying around that I can write it down in. Um, but usually, I'm more processing my energy through like imagery. If I can, the it's like little scrabbles
Mm.
and visual things. So yeah, that's because not only writing, I also have this visual part of me that yeah, I'm usually kind of like doodling and processing my energy that way. But if it comes out very or comes in, I should say, very strongly in words and sentence, and I write it down as well.
If it's a mixture of our own experience and perspective, and then also coming from somewhere else, like the Romans would call it genius, not saying that we use genius different than the Romans did. Like we
Mhm.
use genius and say, I'm a genius for doing this certain way, or that's genius work. And the Romans would
Yeah.
say, no, genius is a thing outside of you. And when they
Mm.
said that's genius, that's them recognizing that that's not you, that's something else that worked through you, the instrument, not the hand, if you will.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
if it's a mix of those things, which I feel like that's correct too, that I can tell if I'm writing a poem, and I can tell if I'm opened up to this other place, and that's where like I'm filtering that idea, or that the download of it.
mhm.
What do you think that is? Like, where do you think that's coming from? What is that creative energy doing when you're not recognizing it?
I'm not sure where it comes from. I guess I would apply this concept of the all and that energy is and doesn't die. So there's certain energies, um, perhaps through your own internal being, that kind of attracts to you. Um, but to really give it a name, I struggle with that. And if you don't do anything with it, I guess it travels and moves on to somewhere, someone else that does kind of, what's the word, converge, do, yeah, do something with, because you have to do something with the energy, right?
Yeah,
Like you
that
have to,
recognizes it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it would move on. It's I'm applying that to, sometimes you get an idea and as you said, you don't write it down or you don't do something with it, and then a couple of hours later or the next day you're like, wait, I had that idea but I can't, like, it's not, you can vaguely remember it but you don't know
Mhm.
what it is that you thought anymore, and I'm associating that with it moved on um, to someone that would use it.
Yeah, I agree. The way I do it is I think there's a creative force out there, and I visualize it in different ways. Like for writing, I think it's all part of the same thing, but I think it's ends that we interact with on each one are different things. Like for poetry, to me, it's more nebulous. It's a It's a location and sounds more than anything else. Like I picture it as walking through a dark forest, not so dark you can't see, but not so light that you can see very far in front of you. That
Mm.
you're kind of on this pathway, and it's to me this place between existences or this place between worlds. And I don't know if that is, if you're going with the multiverse type existence thing, like are we bumping up
Mm.
against some other existence, some other domain, some other reality, some other um, construct of reality or
Yeah.
some other simulation,
Different
whatever.
planes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I picture
Yeah.
it as that, but then with writing, I picture that as a person in an apartment with the windows drawn, the shades drawn. They're in a robe. They're drinking milk out of the carton, and they're just waiting for me to show up and go, "Hey, what are we writing about today?" And that's
Yeah.
with, like, if you're writing a book or a script or something like that. That's what I see. That muse, maybe we call it that. That muse is that, but then poetry is a place that I'm lost in. That's more ethereal. That I did a book called Halfway Through Strangeness, which is a poetry book, and I think that strange area between worlds, like it's contacting us, we're contacting it, whether we know it or not, that the energy is mixing in that area. That also in a book I called The Gray Area, which is interesting that you're of gray, so that's fun. But it's it's weird to visualize those things. I'm not so much of the visual artist, like I don't do paintings and such. I like photography, and I'll draw a picture every now and then. But I don't practice drawing, so I'm not great at drawing. But I can see how words and ideas transfer in, especially to abstract things, and then maybe more into focus if you practice that enough. So I think art, if you practice whatever modality you're doing,
Mm.
that you get better at it. Like you understand more of it every time
Yeah.
you engage with it.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I like the metaphor for um, the yeah, walking through the woods. Yeah, I can. And I'm not sure if I had pictured it as necessarily a woods, but I recognize that element of you're walking somewhere that's not, yeah, not completely visible in a sense. It's a bit dark. I think for me that connects back to my poetry coming up when I'm kind of in this kind of dark place, whether yeah, whatever emotion that I'm feeling. Um, so yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
that's
it
the
is a
difference.
play.
Maybe the difference is it's more feeling than
Yeah.
sight. So
Mhm.
it's not, so you don't get those crisp pictures of things as you do, you get the feeling of it. And then that's how
Yeah,
poetry expresses into words, because you're trying to decipher something that maybe as a human you're not able to. You're only getting pieces of it. It's extruded down
yeah,
so much and filtered down to you so you can understand it, because you're not the I think there's more to existence than just humanity, than what we are here, that maybe
mhm,
we're connected to that, and outside of humanity we would understand it, but in this limited area that we're in this confined area, that's the only stuff we can understand for whatever reason that we're here.
yeah.
I guess I know you have a time restraint, but what do you think the reason for existence is? Big question to end on.
Yeah, it's huge. And I'm not sure if I figured it out. But I like the idea because I do like to listen to like different philosophies and these things. I like the idea that we're here as part of this one, like if you go back to, you have the one energy that we are all part of, that it's then split out and experiencing life to learn something. What exactly are we learning? I have, again, no idea. But we're here to learn something, to experience something, and then go back to that whole. And um, but that as you said, me as a human, I wouldn't know what exactly um, are we learning, and what exactly is the point that we have to be split and learn this whatever lesson. And yeah, I feel like it's something that I won't know, uh, being being a human. But I find it interesting to think about that there's, yeah, we're essentially the same being, just split and talking to yourself in a different in a different form, if that makes sense.
Hmm. What's the best way for people to follow your work or see what you're working on?
um yeah, as we concluded, I'm kind of developing my infrastructure, but I think Maanarak.art is my main kind of Instagram, and whatever changes may be, I will announce it on there. So um, yeah, if I
Okay.
change the structure of, if I go back to one YouTube channel or not, I guess I'll do that. So Maanarak.art is also my website. So
Okay.
should,
I have that
yeah.
in the show notes too for people that
Mhm.
would like to look at it. Anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't, or any thoughts you have in closing?
Um, oh, thank you for contacting me and having me on. I've enjoyed our conversation. I'm gonna have a lot to think about after this, about our existence as human beings, but also about, like, how do I want my YouTube channels to look like. So yeah, I don't know if, what can I end up on. I think stay curious. Um, stay always open for learning, and yeah, we can, nobody can be know everything and be perfect and have all of the answers. I think, as we've shown in here, as well in this episode, but I think it's important for us to keep kind of that childlike curiosity, and yeah, just know that nothing, uh, at least for us humans, is really set in stone. We're always learning and getting to know more about our reality. And yeah, I think it's a mystery for me. I don't know for you, but it is a mystery. Not only our existence, but me as a person, why in this shape, and why did I choose to do podcasting? Like, it's all, yeah, in some sense, a mystery, but I'm open to experiencing it, and yeah, learning and staying open.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'll talk to you on the other side of this musical exit.